So, Steven Crowder, if you don't know who he is, I don't know where you've been. Steven Crowder has a YouTube channel with 1.2 million subscribers, and he's been making commentary about politics for years and years now. He has other social media that has his own something called a mug club that you can join and like donate or something, probably, I'm assuming. But he made this interesting video months ago now about AOC shooting her stupid mouth off, either being dishonest or being an idiot. One of the two. She is talking about the Native American population, and the things she is saying are just, if she's lying, it's just disgusting that she would do this to garner support. More likely she's an idiot, and that's also disgusting because it's like, why are you this uneducated on the subject matter? Why don't you try to like actually do some research into things? I know we all make mistakes, but I mean, still, this is just egregious. So let's take a look at this. Me doing a response to Steven Crowder's video, which is a response to AOC. Now, before we get started, I do want to thank everybody for stopping by. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure that you're still subscribed. Find me over on Rumble and on Twitter. There should be at least one link for either of those.
Speaking to her captivated audience on Instagram, AOC shared her feelings about her reawakening to her Native American roots, heritage, and then proceeds to make a bunch of claims which are just laughable.
I really, really feel you and understand you on this. In fact, I feel like one of the things that first started awakening and connecting me in a deep way to my indigenous heritage was connecting with the Lakota.
Now, he's putting in jokes. They just said, "Shut up, bitch," in the background. I'm sorry, it makes me laugh. I thought it was funny. He does joke a lot, so a lot of his jokes would be considered offensive by our sensibilities today, but I don't go in for all that stuff. I don't care. It's like, say what you want to say. Now, it says here on the screen, as a Boricua from the Bronx, I want to learn more about my Taino roots. You know that, like, I don't know what these words are. I think Taino has something to do with a Native American tribe, the Taino tribe from the Caribbean, I believe. But I don't know what a Boricua is. You might want to like give definitions of these things, or at least have some information so that I don't have to go looking for. I know. It's not your job. It's not your job to educate me. I know. I've been told a million times you're a woman and you're not white, so it's not your job to educate me. I know. But how am I going to be on the same page as you and understand where you're coming from unless I know this information?
When I was at Standing Rock, surrounded by Native people, Lakota, Sioux, Cherokee, all people coming together, and I looked around, it really just clicked that this is us. Like, and the grace that they extended to say, no, you are relative.
No, though. You're Hispanic and they're Native American. I mean, I know that's all part and parcel of the same thing, but the difference between what is a Hispanic person, a Latino or a Latina in your case, is they're actually supposed to be part European. That's my understanding. The research I've done, maybe I'm wrong, maybe you know way more about this than I do. Correct me in the comments, please. But my understanding is the people from Latin America are supposed to be part European to be considered. And you consider yourself a Latino. You consider yourself a Latinx. You've said it before, right? You say I think you pronounce it Latinx, but it's actually pronounced Latinx. Trust me, I know. I am a linguistics expert, so that is how you're supposed to pronounce it. But anyway, yeah, you're not the same as a Native American. You're not a pure-blood Native American. You're not part of what it would be the United States tribes.
Was really formative for me. And while we may not be and come from the same exact lineage, there is a commonality to that ancestry. And it's important for us to recognize that.
You could be as different as night and day. There were all sorts of different tribes in what is now the Americas. All sorts of different tribes. Like, they were not even necessarily similar at all. And you've pointed this out before, Alexandria Ocasio-cortez. Thank you, Bering, for that one. You want to grow yucca in New York. Well, it won't grow there. Not natively. The winters are too cold.
We were raised and we were told growing up that we were extinct, that Tainos.
Okay, well, whoever told you that? Oh, it's Tainos. It's not Tainos. I'm sure. I thought it was pronounced Taino. Oh, Tainos they're extinct. Well, there's a lot of different tribes down in the Caribbean, and some were. It's my understanding, at least one of them was killed off because of friction between the conquistadors and the native tribes at the time. So
don't exist. And it's really important for Puerto Ricans to understand that that narrative is being challenged right now.
So there are a few
maybe it is that you should just go back to Puerto Rico and get out of this country. That might solve all of your problems.
things, and we'll get to that, by the way. She's talking about these people from Puerto Rico, who I believe traveled from Venezuela. But by the way, you understand the reason that you were taught that they were extinct is because of leftist indoctrination. They tried to push this false narrative of a genocide, which never happened. We'll get to that. But first, let's get...
She thinks she's a dinosaur.
Yes.
By the way, she's one of them, but she's extinct. I'm confused. We don't exist, honey. We are extinct. But what about us? That doesn't matter.
Well, I wouldn't mind.
That's pretty good repiping of her insanity.
Let's go to the first claim. Okay, so the first claim is she refers, well, just listen to what she says. She refers to them as Lakota Sioux.
I really, really feel you and understand you on this. In fact, I feel like one of the things that first started awakening and connecting me in a deep way to my indigenous heritage was connecting with the Lakota Sioux and standing.
All right, truth.
All right, now this is going to be good. This is great. His rebuttal to this is just awesome.
Everyone go to AOC's Twitter. I believe it's at AOC.
At AOC or at Google.
And let her know that she needs to apologize because the term Sioux is considered derogatory by many of the Lakota people, just to be clear. So she doesn't even have the self-awareness to be concerned about that. The term Nada-Sioux was originally coined by the French, later adopted by the English as Sioux, and it originated from the Ojibwe word little snakes. And they were the enemy of the Lakota. So it was used as a derogatory term. Now, I understand that there are different Sioux tribes. By the way, there are different languages, dialects, and we act as though they're not even remotely similar. So this idea that everyone was communicating and trading, they lived in peace. We'll get to the war and the slaughter and the slavery in a second. They wouldn't have been able to communicate in many ways. And if you even look at the different...
I do want to say something about that. That's very, very true because, I mean, you think about it. Think about a Native American person. We'll go back 700 years. 700 years ago, a Native American person living in what is now the Seattle area, and a Native American person living in what is now the Washington, D.C. area. They would not have spoken the same language. They would not have known each other even existed, right? We know today, like, hey, there's people living in Seattle, there's people living in Washington, D.C., and most of those people are going to speak at least one language that is the same, which is English. Not the case back then, of course.
Different Sioux tribes, they don't even all agree on what that is, and the Lakota often find it offensive. So right now, in trying to pander, AOC, Ms. Crazy Eyes herself, cannot even stop herself from offending a group of people. By the way, I don't care that it's offensive, just to be clear.
Lakota means, I think, friendly, too, right? So you're completely off the board there. You're just like, oh, okay. Little snakes.
Little snakes make sense for her.
So here's another claim that she makes, that they all share a common ancestry, which is hilarious.
When I was at Standing Rock, surrounded by Native people, it really just clicked that this is us. Like, and while we may not be and come from the same exact lineage, there is a commonality to that ancestry.
And by the way, when she says not the same exact, she means at all. So now, if you want to get technical about it, and here's the thing, it's just sort of like where we have the left wants to tell you, for example, with slavery, that, well, you're not really teaching American history. Well, hold on a second. No. We believe that you should teach American history, as it starts in America, American history. They go, oh, we should teach about the history of the slave. Okay, well, then hold on a second. Now it's a matter of how far back we go, because the slave trade existed before and it exists now. So we say, if you're going to teach kids about slavery, you need to teach them about the West African slave trade. You need to teach them that over 90% of slaves were sold. They were not stolen. You need to teach them where slavery originated. You go, no. Well, you just want to cut it off to make it seem like America is the only place that had slavery.
Exactly. Like these people complain about how we need to teach the real American history. They're not complaining about the actual subject matter that we're teaching. They're actually complaining about we're not pushing their agenda. Their agenda is not being pushed. White man bad, men bad, capitalism bad. All of these things which have made the United States the greatest country in the world. At least it used to be. Maybe not anymore. That's a different debate. But you can't give them their way because it's just all part of their indoctrination program.
Same thing if we're talking about common ancestry. I know what she means to say. She's talking about Native American tribes, and she wants you to think that they were all living together in peace, I guess is what she wants you to believe, that we all share some commonality. Yeah. That's not true. Now, it is true that all human beings, if you again change the degree, have a common ancestry. According to Scientific American, you reach a date where family trees share not just one ancestor in common, but pretty much every ancestor in common. And this is really going to piss off AOC, but beginning in 14...
I'm going to go back to that one there so I can read it too. So go back a bit further, and you reach a date when our family trees share not just one ancestor in common, but every ancestor in common. At this date, called the genetic isopoint, the family trees of any two people on the earth now, no matter how distantly related they seem, trace back to the same set of individuals. If you were alive at the genetic isopoint, then you are the ancestor of either everyone alive today or no one alive today. Interesting. The more you know.
They're not just one ancestor in common, but pretty much every ancestor in common. And this is really going to piss off AOC, but beginning in 1492, you begin to see the European genes...
Let me read this as well, so I don't miss it. At first glance, these dates may seem much too recent to account for long isolated indigenous communities in South America and elsewhere, but genetic information spreads rapidly through generational time, Rutherford explains. Beginning in 1492, we begin to see European genes flowing in every direction until our estimates are that there are no people in South America today that don't have European ancestry. Like I said earlier, a Hispanic person, a Latin American, is supposed to have European ancestry. So that's why we have these different terms for different things, because people mix.
Flowing in every direction until estimates are that there are no people in South America today who don't have European ancestry.
How dare you, Stephen?
And then she also tried to claim, I guess she tried to draw another connection, didn't it? Okay. Did she, there's so many, it's hard to keep track of them. Did she try and claim that something about African cultural heritage, too? I don't even know what that means, but we have a clip? Yes. Oh.
One more thing that's also super important to note is that our culture isn't just Taino, it's also Yoruba.
Stop pronouncing these words in a different dialect. You don't do this for Russian words, German words. You don't do this for French words. You do this only for Spanish words. Now, I have seen it branching out a little bit lately when they're talking about other cultures, they do kind of try to pronounce them with the accent of that culture. But not everybody has the same accent as you Puerto Rican people. There's different accents in Latin America, just like there's different accents in the English-speaking world. So stop it. It's ridiculous. It makes you look stupid. And we know what you're trying to do. You're trying to indoctrinate all of us to adopt your lifestyle, your point of view, your way of doing things, and get rid of the Anglo-Saxon way of doing things.
When our African ancestors were brought and enslaved to the island, they also brought Yoruba culture, which is why when you look at some of our most famous songs like Aguanile, they talk about Yemaya, Yemaya, oh.
Shut up.
That is so freaking cringy when people break into song in their videos. I mean, if you're a musician and you're like, yeah, I'm singing, or if you're like talking about like maybe a musical and you're like doing critical analysis of a musical and you are a good musician, okay. But if you're just a person talking about something, don't break into song. It's so freaking cringy. Oh.
Maya. That is Yoruba.
Oh my God. What? Just let the world burn.
Yeah.
I quit.
What's the point?
I don't know what she's saying there. The point is she wants to have her cake and be racist, too.
Well, she's trying to, she's trying to be.
That is actually perfect analysis of this.
She's trying to claim all the things.
And black. There we go.
What?
And Puerto Rican.
And Puerto Rican.
The point is she lies about everything.
Well, she was Latinx, right?
Sure.
Which is pretty much a surefire sign that she's not Latin anything.
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Think that guy who wanted to stop the Uvalde shooter who was told to stand down by the police with his gun? You think he would have been like, hey, you didn't use my pronouns, bro. Well, you know what? Words and definitions change.
There are people that vote for this person.
Yes.
That is the truly scary part.
There's people who love her.
Yeah.
She's popular.
Yeah. I mean, that's a relative term. But yeah, in that very small subset of crazy in that area of the country. Here's something else, too, and this kind of gets us to
Syphilis is popular, technically. It's a household name.
It's syphilis
So
and gonorrhea.
In diarrhea.
Yes.
Like
Gonorrhea and syphilis. Pandering for votes. Why are you talking like that? Stop. Just let me have this.
syphilis is not Hispanic.
Okay, I got to correct this here, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're a historian and knows better than I do, but my research into Columbus, Columbus, he sailed across the ocean thinking he was going to find Japan, and he ended up discovering some place that Europeans didn't know about called the Americas eventually. I mean, at that time, though, he was in the Caribbean islands, which were inhabited by native people. And the first case of syphilis appeared in Europe, at least on record, in 1493. So he very well might be wrong about that.
Here's a claim that she talks about Standing Rock. Okay, and this is something that, look, we're dealing with the Native American sort of culture here. And she uses the term indigenous, which I believe you're not supposed to use in that video, but I don't know.
No.
The point is, we learned indigenous in Canada, and then I came here, people told me it was offensive. You're supposed to say Native American. They still say indigenous in Australia. I don't care. I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy that they can never live up to their own rules, and it's hysterical. So she was talking about Standing Rock. Okay, this is when I was growing up, remember you probably learned Black Hills. This is a big thing, right? Talking about this is in Dakota. I don't know if Black Hills, this whole area goes across both Dakotas. I'm not entirely sure, but Black Hills, let's just say Dakota. Not the Lakota, which she refers to as the Sioux.
Yes.
They were demanding when I was growing up that the Black Hills be given back, right? And she was talking about Standing Rock, how we were all standing together. Here's the truth with that. When they talk about handing it back because we were all standing together, let me frame the truth in the form of a question. Let's Jeopardy this. Which tribe? So they want you right now, like we're all holding hands together. We're all unified. You were never unified until the evil white man came. You were all killing each other. Which tribe? There's so many tribes that have been in charge of the Black Hills over the course.
So Squanto, Squanto, he was very well known in this country because of his dealings with the Pilgrims when they came on the Mayflower. Well, he was like playing 4 or 5 different sides. Really, he's like, I'm good with this guy over here because hey, I don't know if he's going to win. I'm good with these Pilgrims because I can get something from them. I'm over here with my chief. My chief, he's the man. Because they had these concepts before Europeans came along.
Of what we have recorded, 10,000 years, right? You had the Manon, you had the Hidatsa, you had the Sanish. I don't know.
What does it say here? The Black Hills of South Dakota, the region has been inhabited by Native Americans for almost 10,000 years. The Arikara arrived in the Black Hills by about 1500 AD, followed by the Cheyenne, Crow, Kiowa, and Pawnee. And we're supposed to give it back to the Lakota because it's theirs. Okay.
I don't know if I'm presiding, if I'm pronouncing this.
All right, so what does this one here say? MHA National History. This resource guide is written for the purpose of providing basic information about the histories and cultures of the 3 affiliated tribes, the Mandan, Hidatsa, the Sanish. The tribes believe their presence in North America is from the beginning of time. The Mandan call themselves the people of the first man. The Hidatsa were known as Minitari or Gros Ventre. Hidatsa was formerly the name of a village occupied by these tribes, which has been said to mean willows. The name Minitari, spelled in various ways, means to cross the water. Oral historians say the names Arikara, Rakaris, and Rees were given to them by the Pawnee and other informants to describe the way they wore their hair. It is important to be mindful that the people call themselves Sanish, which means the original people from whom all other tribes sprang. Although sharing cultures and histories for so long, the people keep a distinct sense of tribal relationships. So yeah, I mean, you're not all one. They thought of themselves as different. They fought each other because they were different. They got along too, but there was also animosity and war and acrimony and all that stuff.
Correctly, resided there long before the Sioux, as far as back as 900 AD. Then you had the Arikara, they arrived around 1500 AD. And then there's the Kiowa, you had the Cheyenne, the Crow, the Pawnee. Okay. So here's the thing. The Lakota took the Black Hills, right? Took them during, I believe it was the late 1700s and the early 1800s. Why? Well, how? They outnumbered the Cheyenne.
Yeah.
So they took their shit, just to be clear. So you have the Kiowa.
All right, what does this one say here? In 1750, the Lakota, mostly the Aglala and Brule lands, had moved to the southeastern area to present-day South Dakota near the Missouri River. Here, they encountered the Arikara and attacked and pushed them out of the area. During the late 1700s to early 1800s, the Lakota came to control the lands in the Black Hills and on northern plains by the eviction of the Cheyenne and the Crow tribes. Areas that would later become western South Dakota, eastern Montana, northern Wyoming, and northern Nebraska. Yeah, so see, this was going on long before the Europeans came.
Well, then you have the Cheyenne. So who do you give it back to? Do you give it back to the original tribe or the people who evicted that tribe or the people? We didn't invent evictions. We were just able to sign the notice in a singular language. That's all. We didn't create evictions. And at least we give a warning. They just said, we have more people than you. Therefore, leave or get raped. And I'm like, I guess we'll leave.
Like I said, he gets to be pretty offensive based on our modern day sensibilities. But, I mean, that stuff doesn't bother me.
Twice.
Did you give them reservations, by the way? Did you give them land to go over and hang out on? Like, we want this land, but we'll give you some other land? No.
Yeah, and by the way, the Lakota beat the Cheyenne at that point. Do you know how? By outnumbering them. It depends where you go in the estimates. Back then, it was considered a lot. If there were like 17,000 to 20,000 right there in that area of the Black Hills, it was enough for the Cheyenne to go, oh, shit. So
just like that.
Just like that.
That's exactly what they sounded like, too. I mean, I was there. I built a time machine, went back in time. They sounded just like that.
Standing on a hill.
They all want to act like right now, like we invented war.
Yeah, exactly. Or conquest.
Which tribe to give it back to? Right now, they all hold hands like, yes, I'm linking arms. Well, you're the one who raped my great-grandfather. Oh, yeah. He took it how I gave it to him. Well, times have changed. So I don't understand how the European settlers' claim to that territory is any less valid than the native tribes before them who took it through violence. And by the way, we'll get to the point where not all of the land was taken from the new settlers through violence. It was almost always taken through violence between tribes, not always, but they were incredibly violent toward each other. You've heard the term tribal? You've heard that term? There you go. So here's another claim that they make.
My tattoo knows that term.
Here's another claim that they make, that the natives were it was a genocide. They were genocided.
Right.
Again, I told you how many Lakota there were in Black Hills back then. Do you know how many there are today? Registered. That doesn't include the fakes who want to tell you at every dinner party that they're one portion asshole. That's the portion that's not Native American, by the way.
Right.
Yeah. The portion that's Native American is the only redeeming portion of those people.
Yeah,
I mean, like, I'm 1/16 Cherokee and you're 15/16 prick.
Yes.
So there are currently 70,000 registered Lakota Indians in the United States.
All right, so what does this say here? The number of Lakota Indians is slightly lower than other tribal groups. Dude, it's slightly lower. But it's still, there are only about 70,000 registered Lakota Indians. They're Native Americans, not Indians. Less than half of these continue to speak their ancestral language. The Lakota natives can be traced back to the Lewis and Clark expedition. During this time, the Lakota Indian tribe accompanied much of the Great Plains. Because of ongoing warfare, the tribal group was forced northward and settled in the Dakotas. It doesn't say when this is happening. Probably warfare with the Europeans. Now, in full disclosure, I could be part Native. There's been a lot of ancestry work done in my family. And one path says that I'm Native. Some people deny that, but it appears to be the case that I am actually at least a small portion Native American.
So here's the truth, okay? The truth is, we genocided, and I know that's not really a term, but I'm just using it.
Yeah.
We genocided the Native Americans. There are more Native Americans than ever. Well, then we screwed up.
Yes.
That'd be like after the Holocaust, there being 60 million more Jews than before.
They're just bad at their job.
Genocide typically means wiping people out.
Yeah.
Well, I think that we could maybe be lenient and say it means the attempted wipeout of, or the attempted extermination of a group of people, at the very least. I don't think that we were attempting to exterminate them. I'm sure there were people amongst the Europeans who wanted to exterminate all of the Native Americans. I'm sure there are Native Americans who wanted to exterminate all of the Europeans. But the fact of the matter is, I think that many people, in fact, I know this because we have writings of this, that many people did just want to get along with the natives. They did want to share the land with the natives. They understood that, hey, we're coming here from another place, and you kind of are already here, so we want to share this with you.
There are approximately the numbers, and it's tough to get an official count. I don't know if you know this. The natives, all the tribes, didn't necessarily cooperate in a census. Approximately 248,000 Native Americans in 1890. Today, there are
So for decades through 1960, the American Indian population as enumerated in U.S. Census grew little, if at all. Oh, interesting. From a population of 250,000, 248,000. In 1890, American Indians increased to 524,000 in 1960. So, I mean, yeah, they went up. They went up by about 75,000. That's not a big increase in the native population. That is a very small percentage of the overall U.S. population. But 224,000 people in 1960. I'm sure it's higher now. 224,000 people. That is enough to rebuild your population many times over again.
5.2 million Native Americans now, so if you include Alaska Natives. Now, I know.
So this one, it went from 524,000 in 1960. And then in 2012, there are approximately 5.2 million American Indians and Alaska Natives, making up approximately 2% of the U.S. population. There you go.
A significant portion of that includes people who are one portion Native American. And of course, that group does not include, I mean, it's almost a wonder, Elizabeth Warren. It's like she couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with her heritage. There's a good chance that you have some portion of Native American with you. The point here is there was a lot of...
Well, Pocahontas there, she has blue eyes and blonde hair. She definitely doesn't have any Native American in her.
Of intermarrying. It wasn't an intentional genocide. Doesn't mean that there weren't wars. Doesn't mean that there weren't wars. Doesn't mean that there wasn't unfair play, foul play on behalf of the new settlers. Sure, there also happened to be foul play on behalf of all the tribes beforehand.
Yeah,
and they had a long chance. So when people say give the land back, I was just hoping honestly that Donald Trump would have just come back at some point, just a mind screw, like, all right, look, we're going to give it all back to the Vikings. Good luck. It was like, oh shit.
Well, give the land back. Okay, so what are you going to do with all the people that live here? The millions of white people who live here, the millions of black people who live here. What are you going to do with all those people? How about the Asian people that live here? They all have to go back to their respective areas. So you're telling me that the white people have to go back to Europe? Did you know that in Europe, it's my understanding, you can't get a burial. You can't have a burial. You're going to be cremated because they don't have land. They don't have enough land to bury all the people that would die there. So you expect how many millions of Americans? At least 100 million Americans to go back to Europe and occupy that already overpopulated area of the world. And it's kind of the same with everything, I mean, this would be wide open space then. And then people are going to come and want to settle here because it's wide open space.
And they're not, by the way, you're not even native. They're Siberian. They're Asian Siberian when you look at the people here. They crossed over at the land bridge through. This idea that, are they just native because they were here a certain amount of time ago? My point is, no one was really native here. People came here, and then they started fighting each other, and then better people with fighting fought them and won. Now, it wasn't only gained through fighting. This is a culture clash that takes place. So here's another truth that may be uncomfortable for a lot of people as it relates to the idea of genocide. I use this example quite a bit. You guys have heard of Manhattan?
Mm-hmm. Small, little place.
Once or twice.
Yes. So Manhattan, it was purchased from the Native Americans. Okay, a lot of people don't know this. So this is something that would take place a lot.
For beaver pelts.
It was for 60 guilders. And that would include thousands of beaver pelts. That would include all kinds of timber, right? They bought it for 60 guilders. There was a bill of sale. Okay, and we have the reference available at lighthousecrowder.com. We have a previous show map. I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but it was a ton of beaver pelts. Timber was purchased. I believe it was the Canarsie there. There was another tribe. And what happened is they were like, well, look, we don't really have advanced boats. We were on this island. A lot of them were living nomadically. It was a pain in the ass. And so all of a sudden, these white guys with funny colored beards showed up and they said, hey, we'll give you all of this stuff for it. And they said, okay, great. Let's cross over there where we don't have to take a boat everywhere. So they left. Then Manhattan started being developed and they came back. They're like, we really like what you've done with the place. We were wrong about this, Pad. Imagine if you purchased a house, right now, homeowner, and then you came back to your house tonight after work, and the previous family that sold it to you were just living there.
Yeah, we like what you did with our house.
And you're saying, well, but I paid you for the house.
No.
They're like, yeah, but we like it now.
Yeah.
We didn't like it then, but we saw what you did with the plumbing. You know, you got rid of the linoleum, replaced it with granite, so we're going to live here now. And you said, you can't do that. Only back then there was no police. There was nothing else to do. You would be like, now I have to kill all of you.
It's true. I mean, what else can you do? I mean, if you got if there's 20,000 of you and 10,000 people show up and said, hey, you know what, we want this back. We like what you did to it, and we like it better now. We want it back, even though we gave it to you. We sold it to you fair and square. What are you going to do? I mean, you have to start killing each other.
That kind of stuff happened all the time back then. They didn't. Yeah. Certain tribes didn't have a concept of personal property, so there was a lot of trading that took place. And then there were also battles that took place, but not nearly as brutal as Native Americans were with each other. And I hate even using that term because it's a BS term. That's another claim that they make. The natives are native. Again, no. The Taino people where she's talking about, we all share a common ancestry. So she's talking about the Taino. They migrated to the, do you guys say Caribbean or Caribbean?
Caribbean.
All right, so let's see what this says here. A distinct migration between when pottery makers traveled from down the Orinoco River in present Venezuela and out to the Caribbean islands, populating islands from Trinidad to Puerto Rico between 500 BC and 200 BC. Islands were not necessarily settled in sequential order. The earliest Virgin Islands ceramic age dates so far known are close to AD 200. The ceramic tradition that arrived in the islands with this migration is called the Saladoid series by archaeologists. It endured for several centuries until about AD 700 in the Virgin Islands. Interesting. So, I mean, people have to move around. They didn't occupy the Caribbean islands until about 500 BC. They didn't start occupying them until about 500 BC. I didn't know that. I mean, I know that the earliest native artifacts were found in North America, I believe, in about 13,500 years ago. So I just assumed that, by that time, hey, we pretty much occupied everywhere. That's interesting.
So she said that the Taino people migrated to, she said we all share a common ancestry. No, the Taino people migrated to the Caribbean from what is present-day Venezuela.
Ah.
Okay. Venezuela's south. Clear enough? Now, whereas if you look at the Native Americans who would be here in North, as you know them, they came from Asia, with the majority coming in one group. Here you go from the University College of London, reference available at louderwithcarter.com. Scientists have found that Native American populations arose from at least 3 migrations, with majority descended entirely from a single group of first American migrants that crossed over through Beringia, I don't know how to pronounce, a land bridge between Asia and America, what would probably be known as present-day Siberia. A lot of people don't think of areas of Russia as Asia, but it actually is, as General Patton referred to them, the Asiatics. So the point is, no, not the same at all.
Yeah.
They came from different areas, and so then it becomes a matter of who was there first. By the way, why would they have left Venezuela? That's a question that needs to be asked. I don't have the answer for you right now because I only have so much time in the day. I'm willing to bet there were some people who had to leave Venezuela for the Caribbean because there were people back there in Venezuela who said, you can be my slave or leave this place. And they said, well, we're just going to leave this place.
We'll get in a boat and go out on the water and
Makes
not
sense.
know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Roll the dice.
See what happens.
Who knows? That could have been how it happened. And one thing I do want to point out is, and this is a common misconception, I think, is that he was saying like, oh, they just walked across the land bridge and came to North America. That's not how it worked. The land bridge was there for centuries. People actually migrated onto the land bridge, lived on the land bridge, died on the land bridge, and the tribes just slowly moved across the land looking for food and water sources. The water was low enough between Siberia and Alaska that was all land. That area was all land. So they just thought of it as land, and they went there to find food, etc.
So this is one of those things, it's this constant victim. I mean, I don't want to even say victim complex because that would presume that there's some sort of value in being a victim to begin with. It's this constant false perpetuation of victimhood. And it's not even based in reality. I realize that as all oppressed people, the people who left Venezuela from their oppressors and the people who were killing other people in these tribes that are completely unrelated, that we all share a common ancestry and that we need to sign the Green New Deal. More money, please. More money, please. How about everything you just said is bullshit and we give no land back whatsoever? Why? Well, because we want it at this point. And guess what? When you guys, and when I say you guys, I don't want to speak in broad strokes because I know there are so many tribes that exist and I don't want to disrespect the scalping that you did amongst each other because you guys were killing, enslaving, and raping each other before we came here, and now there are more Native Americans or portion Native Americans than ever. That's not genocide. That's called winning a war and then being, historically speaking, incredibly gracious about it. Hey, also, send your messages to AOC on Twitter because I got to tell you, she should not be tarring and feathering the good Lakota people with the moniker of Little Snakes, of Sioux. They don't like that, AOC. And you know what? That won't happen on my watch.
All right, so that's pretty much it for his video. I did cut a lot out. If you want to see the full video and you haven't, I'm going to leave a link down in the comments. I don't got anything else for you this time. I just wanted to analyze this video. I thought it was fun. Let me know if you will like me doing this sort of kind of analysis of other YouTubers talking about woke stuff, because I think that this could be something that I enjoy doing. I really do like actually doing this sort of thing, and I'm going to keep doing it if you guys say, hey, yeah, let's do it. If you guys say, hey, no, do not do that, that's not good, I don't like that, then I'll back away from it. But that's all I got for this time. I'll see you in the next video.